sighed. She's someone else's wife, my son. Do you not understand? She's the mother of his sons. It is his child she suckles at her breast. Forget her. But Lalji's heart was too full, so full that he was past listening. Does she ever ask about me? The old woman sighed again. Oh, you foolish boy, who can tell the secrets of a woman's heart? Overwhelmed by his feelings, Lalji decided to step out to get some fresh air and clear his head. As he walked out and headed towards the old neem tree, he paused, for there was someone already sitting on the swing. He took a few tentative steps to see who it was, then stopped. It was Reshma. His heart hammering, Lalji walked towards her. Reshma turned with a start at the sound of the approaching footsteps, and seeing him, quickly rose from the swing. Lalji thought she was alone, but he was mistaken. A little boy was tugging at her chanya, and she had a baby in her arms. The sight unsettled him. What had he expected? That she would be waiting for him untouched all these years, her marriage miraculously unconsummated? How many times in these past years had he yearned to see her again, dreamt about this moment, fantasized about how she would come into his arms, how they would confess their love over and over. But now that the moment was so unexpectedly here, Lalji found himself speechless. Reshma paused as though in mid-flight, like a hunted gazelle. She opened her mouth to say something but closed it again, the words unsaid. She looked down and then, for a fleeting moment, permitted herself to meet his gaze. She looked ethereal. Motherhood suited her, Lalji thought with a twinge. Motherhood and sorrow, for there was a softness in her face that only sorrow brings. Reshma's eyes were brimming with tears, tears of pain and longing and loss. She lowered her eyes. She knew it was too late for them. She pressed the baby closer to her, as if to protect herself from Lalji, from herself, from temptation. She walked past him wordlessly towards the safety of the house beyond, and as he watched Reshma go, Lalji knew he had lost her forever. So I don't think I'll plague you with any more, but we'll leave it open for Q&As, and if you have any. Otherwise, we all set to have tea and go.
Will anyone in the audience with questions?
My name is Dharmendra. I haven't read the book, but I've read about the book. And I believe one of the themes, or the major theme of the book, is that Mumbai was much better in the good old days. Is that one of the themes?
No, that's not a theme at all.
I see, okay. So is that interpretation of somebody who has read the book and put it on the web?
Not at all. I think every city has its time and place, and every place has its own ups and downs.
Okay.
It's how you look at it, it's how you approach it. I think Bombay is still splendid. Bombay was splendid, Bombay is still splendid.
Okay, so was the reason why it's...
Somebody who lives in Bangalore, यहाँ रह के बताना.
Precisely.
फैसला मेरा तो नहीं था.
Okay, so if that's not the case, then what was the reason for it being set in a historical period? Any specific reason for that?
Yes, absolutely, because the stories were of that era. There were stories of my grandfather's time, and of my parents' time, and of the time when they were small. And this was the generation, at least these were the family stories, and that's when my grandfather came to Bombay, and that's when my grandfather-in-law came to Bombay. So naturally the story was set in that time. And then when I examined it, I found it was a very interesting period, 1857 to 1947. So much was happening, there were so many interesting characters around. Even if my stories weren't set there, I might have chosen that optionally.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, great. Because if you would have said that it was because those were the good old days and now we're in a bad new days,
now we're in the good new days.
I would have wanted your personal opinion. That's the reason I asked the question.
I think we're now in the good new days.
Oh, great. I completely agree with you.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay. I'd like to know that you don't come from a family of writers. You've had a lot of oral tradition, stories given to you. Now, I'm intrigued by this. I come from a family of writers. My husband was a writer, my sons were writer, my daughter was a writer, my daughter a writer. But tell me, how come you started to write? How come you started to write so beautifully? The excerpts that you have read are beautiful, and I haven't read your book, but I should be buying it. So tell me, what was it? Was there a gestation period? Was it, did it take you long to write?
I think I always wanted to write. I knew from when I was a young girl in school that I wanted to write. But it was a very vague thing, so I didn't say, okay, what am I going to write about? I know at 10 I said I must write a book by 12, but I realized that was not happening. And then we had an English teacher I was very fond of in school, since there's so many here. And I remember one day she came to class and says, there's not anyone here with any talent. And I know, I said, oh my gosh, it's never going to happen. But that helped. And I think the other thing I can share with you is really a family story. But you know, my mother was married off at 16. She never had a chance to finish school. And the reason I mentioned here is she did the next best thing. She read, and she read, and she read. And unlike my brothers, I couldn't get out of the house, so I had to listen. When she said, "Arey yas, ye sun," oh look how he's written. Oh, how wonderful is this, you know? And I remember once she told me something. She was reading biography at that time. She was reading about Alexander Dumas. And some older writer went to this young Alexander who wanted to write, and he said, young man, first you read, and you read, and you read, and then it will all come pouring out. So maybe I was waiting for that to happen, and then I said, before I go up, I better start. So,
well, you write beautifully.
Thank you.
She is a writer because nobody else in her family is. Because you get so intimidated when everybody is a writer in your family that you never really pick up pen to paper. I'm often asked, your father was a poet, your father-in-law was a poet, your husband is a poet. Do you write poetry? And I say, no, I provide the inspiration.
Anybody else with questions? Very well
I can't
said.
believe all these garrulous Queen Mary girls and all the rest, you know, don't have questions.
They're all reserving the questions post the event. I think when they have one-on-one questions with you while they get their book signed. Anybody else on this side with questions? Yes, ma'am. We have a question right there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it seems to have such a wonderful feeling of nostalgia. And this can really only come if one has real experiences. And that's all that one needs to write about, isn't it?
Yeah. I think there was a sense of a nostalgia because it came from my childhood. It came from, like I said, those wonderful stories. And that makes you, and when you're young and you have an imaginative mind, you're spending a lot of time on your own, you sort of conjure up worlds, you know, past times, and maybe I did that. You know, and I think we've all lived in another time, so it comes back.
Yes,
Do you know, that's a bad question because I told a lot of people asked that, and I said 20. And I think the girl who asked me first was in her 20s, so she looked at me very strangely. You know, one of these young people from the media. And because I had no agenda, I was just writing it for myself. It's not that I wanted to get published, I wanted to be famous, nothing. I just wanted to set these down. And the only deadline that I did miss, I'm afraid, is I know it was my mother, and later my mother would say, but you like writing, you can write. Why don't you put these down? Because I listened to the same stories over and over and over. And I said, yes, I must write them. And then by the time, you know, I'm a slow coach, obviously I'm a procrastinator. And I didn't, they're not around to see the stories, but I think they're up there somewhere and they're watching.
Did you begin by writing longhand and then graduate to the computer?